I'm Kelly Rudy. On this edition of Paranet BizCast, John Torinus, Chairman of Serigraph. What is BizStarts doing specifically to help really promote entrepreneurship right now in this economy?
BizStarts Milwaukee was created, we started forming it up about 2 years ago, and the idea was that the economy of southeastern Wisconsin, similar to the economy of Wisconsin, is in trouble. Especially in the central city, there are very high levels of unemployment, but there's a good level of unemployment across the whole region. We talk about 7 counties around Milwaukee. So we decided to tackle one part of the equation, and that was the entrepreneurial ecosystem, the entrepreneurial culture. And our assessment was that if we could have more startup companies that create wealth and create jobs, we'd all be a lot better off. Now there are a good number of regions in the country that have adopted the same strategy. So we're not doing this all by ourselves. The North Carolina Triangle is always a famous example. Silicon Valley is another famous example. But there are others like Cleveland that are doing it. So we set out to create an entrepreneurial culture where people think about making a job, not just taking a job. If you think back on the history of Milwaukee, we had at the turn of the century in the early 1900s and after the war in the 1940s and 50s, we had a lot of great corporations formed up. And so people could get out of high school, go get a good industrial job, a manufacturing job, make the equivalent of 20 bucks an hour and have a prosperous life. Well, those jobs started disappearing in the 80s and 90s as the global economy started to take shape, and we didn't respond fast enough. So what we're all about is creating an entrepreneurial ecosystem where if you, Kelly, want to start a company, we help you with develop your business plan. We get you ready to talk to investors, and then we introduce you to investors, and we assign you a group of mentors, and we get you started. And hopefully you'll grow it into a nice big company, create some wealth, employ a lot of people, and we get back to solid ground economically. So that's the general thrust of it.
You mentioned angel investing as a large part of entrepreneurship and also part of what BizStarts does. Not everyone knows exactly what it is, how to do it. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Angel investing is part of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, but it's not the only part. You got to have the entrepreneurs who get it, who feel supported, but when they have their idea ready to commercialize and go to market, you got to have the investors there that step in and help them get going, because you can't start a company without capital, without money. Some people do it on their credit card and borrow. The first thing that everybody does is friends. They call it friends, family, and fools. You go to your friends, you go to your family, and you get your initial money, maybe to do an initial prototype, an initial business model, and test it out. But once you get it going, you're going to need more money to start hiring some people to go, salespeople, production people, to get the company going. So that's where the angels step in. Wisconsin has always lagged hugely in the amount of early stage investing, both angels, who are guys like individual investors like myself, or in venture capital firms that step in sort of at the second or third stage. We just don't have a lot of that money in Wisconsin. So a number of us have created 3 angel groups in Milwaukee. There's one at Marquette called Golden Angels that's done some very nice deals in Wisconsin. There's one called Silicon Pastures that started about a dozen years ago, and they've done 15, 16 companies, startups. And then the one that I'm involved in is called Successful Entrepreneur Investors. And we've done, in the year and a half we've been in business, we've done about a half a dozen deals. So you want to start a company, Kelly? You come to BizStarts Milwaukee. We'll put you through a 10-week course, and during that 10 weeks, we'll develop your business plan. There'll be a week on your marketing plan, a week on your intellectual property protection, a week on your go-to-market strategy, a week on your financial structure, a week on your management team. So we walk you through each chapter of the business plan that has to be there, And by the end of the 10 weeks, you have a business plan that should be ready for investors. At that point, BizStarts Milwaukee steps in and says, okay, Kelly, you haven't done this before, but we got 25 guys, mentors, some women, some guys, who have been there, done that.
I think it's pretty neat that these people are not having trouble investing, because I would think that maybe BizStarts and the angel investing networks would have slowed down in the economy. Why do you think that is? Is it kind of their mission?
Well, you think about who these guys are. They've taken, obviously everybody's taken hits to their portfolio, but the accredited investors can stand those kind of blows a lot better than the average person can. These are high net worth individuals, and so let's say a guy's worth $5 million. So he takes a 25% hit to his portfolio, so now he's down to 3.75. He's still got a fair amount of money, discretionary money to invest if he chooses to do so. Or it could be a high income person who's, even though the economy's way off, he's still making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year. Could be a wealthy doctor. So these guys still have the capability to invest, even though the economy's way off. Now they have to, and in a way, they've had their investments in standard instruments, and they've gotten whacked. So the idea of putting some of their money into alternative investments where they have some control over the outcome is not all that unattractive. In fact, it is attractive to have at least part of your portfolio in these startup early stage investments. Because you not only put your money in, you put yourself in as a director or as a mentor, and you have some influence then on whether the company is successful or not.
What advice would you have for an aspiring entrepreneur?
Go do it. Go do it. Come in, and if you have a good, and obviously you're not going to get funded unless you got a good idea, you've got the right level of experience, you got a good business plan. I'm not saying this is simple. Starting a company isn't easy. I've done it a couple of times. In fact, it's always been almost excruciatingly difficult to start a company in Wisconsin because of the absence of capital. What BizStarts Milwaukee is trying to do is make it not quite so difficult. You're still going to be working 60, 70 hours a week, and you're going to be putting your own skin in the game, and it's going to be a real challenge, but it can be very exciting, and obviously if you make it work, there's a big payoff at the end.